we've been waiting for something like this for quite some time. If you were in the monster trucks before, you know, maybe you started with a Claude, then you went to an SMT, then you went to the LMT, and then when the Mini craze came out and the 1/24th craze, and you were trying to convert them over. Well, after all that time of trying to convert them over, all those thorns in your side are over. All right, amigos, welcome back. So today what we're going to be talking about is the new LMT Mini. It's brought to you by Losi. It is the 18th scale LMT monster truck. We have the son of a digger. This thing is fantastic. It is such a cool truck. We've been waiting for this for such a long time. This thing, so if you started with a clodbuster and then made the progression to the SMT and then made the progression to the LMT, around that time is when the Mini craze kind of started getting crazy. And had we had this one during that, oh my goodness, I think this would have been 10 times crazier than it already is. It's sold out pretty much everywhere right now. But let's talk about this one for a little bit. So it is an 18th scale monster truck. It's brushed. It's got a 380 brushed motor in it. The wheels or the tires are almost 3 inches tall. Yeah, about 3 inches tall. And this thing just handles like a monster truck. So we are, you know, I think the struggle was real when we were on the struggle bus trying to make the SAX24s into monster trucks or whatever other kind of 24 scale monster truck. And it still kind of felt a little bouncy. It still felt a little like a toy. But this thing is just, it's awesome. It feels, I would say it's probably right now one of the best entry. I wouldn't say entry because this can go a long ways, but it's kind of like if you wanted to get someone into this hobby, this for sure is something that would be perfect. It would be perfect for them because it's fast, but it's not super fast, and it's light, so it's not really gonna do any damage if you get hit by it or anything like that. Like it's just a fun little truck. It is super nimble. Let's take a look at how this, so the way it puts, and I'm gonna cut up to the top view, it's got these little tabs on it, and I only have one up right now for this, but you turn the tab and then everything kind of keys out, and you can open the whole cab up like so. And so it's got a 2-in-1 ESC and receiver. Now there's a setting here on this ESC and receiver which it will, instead of like having full gas and then pushing reverse for the brake and it slows you down, this will be instant forward reverse. So you can change that tab, and that's kind of like stunt mode. You have to be a little bit more mindful on the trigger. So if you're trying to do backflips and do jumps and stuff like that, or going fast and into jumps, you can't like just touch the brake and expect it to like roll through the landing. It'll actually lock it up and go the other way. So you have to be a little bit aware of that. And if it's in the air, it'll trim it out really fast. So that's the 2-in-1. It's got these O-ring style clamps that hold down the 2S50C battery. This is a sweet little battery, and it comes with a USB charger, and I don't think it's your typical USB charger. I don't have it with me, but I'll put a picture of it right there. So the picture of it, it's basically this USB dongle, I guess if you want to call it, but it actually charges it pretty quick. I don't know what speed it charges it at, but it's, I would say maybe it took an hour maybe to charge. When I went down there, it was already charged down to our little bench. But, so one quick tip. So these little tabs, you want to, your mind says, I want to line them up with the little lever, or with the little lip here. It's so much easier if you kind of pull that lip off to the side and then they go right in. So people fuss around with that, trying to get the tab in the little hook there. Don't even bother, just hook it around. and it works great. So it's got a fully caged, licensed son of a digger body. This thing just looks beautiful. I wish I would have taken glam shots before I let my kid loose on it, but it's Christmas and you know, you gotta let them play. So the other cool thing is the sponsor plates are all decaled up. It's got the scale exhaust. It's got oil-filled shocks on it. And the oil-filled shocks actually coming from there feel really good. I think you could probably tune it up a little bit with some different oils. But as it is, it's pretty rad. Now, putting the body back on at first was a little slightly cumbersome, only because he had to get all 3 of these tabs lined up. But what I did is I torqued down the screw that had the tabs. Yours might come and it might already be tight. I tightened mine just a little bit. Like, I didn't want to strip it, but I tightened it just a little bit to give it a little bit of pressure on the turns here, or the little keys. And by doing that, you could put it in position and lock it down really easy. So I did that. One thing so my kid did probably, I don't know, 300 or 400 backflips seriously before when we first got this in the first 2 runs. And he did bend the rear 4 links, the lower ones, but they bent right back. Honestly, I would be more happy for these to bend than for the Heim joint here to pop off. If the Heim joint there was to break, then you'd need a new axle. This is a better fix for me. This is easy to kind of just bend back and go back out and play. It comes with the, I'm not sure which Spectrum, SLT2. This is actually a pretty good radio. For my son, it's perfect because it's smaller. And for me, I can one-hand drive it. So it's got the steering and throttle trim, steering trim and steering dual rate. The thing that's really cool about this one is that it's got the selectable 50, 75, 100 throttle limiter. That's huge, because if you hand this off to someone that's never driven before and you don't want them to, you know, break it, or you don't want them to do anything crazy with it, you back that down to 75 or 50, and then they get a hang of it, and then they can go out and run it. So that's something that I would definitely do with this for someone who hasn't driven one before. But it's pretty rad. So it does have open diffs. It's locked in the center, but it's got open diffs out at the axle. That's the only difference. Like, if you looked at the characteristics of how this handled versus how the 10th scale LMT handled, that's the only difference. And it's kind of a big difference, but it's a give and take. So, meaning, so like if you do a backflip and say you're coming out at this weird angle and you turn the wheels like this, and on the LMT, if you power out of this, the LMT is going to hook and it's going to bring you back over. Well, this one, what's going to happen is this wheel is going to stop and this wheel is going to diff out, and it's going to start spinning, and it's just going to fall back over. So that's one thing to keep, I guess if you're a technical user, that's one thing. The servo here is great. We haven't had any problems with it. I'll have videos showing, maybe not in this video, but in a couple of the other videos showing my son just went straight into a concrete block right here, and it held up. The servo stayed fine. It's quick enough. Let's see, I'll turn this on. And it's actually pretty quick out of the box, which is awesome. So you could put an upgraded servo in it, but I don't know that you need to. This battery is actually dead, and it's pretty cool. It gets up in boogies. If it's a full battery on 100%, it's gonna wheelie up if it has good traction. Stunt-wise, or like how I would drive this, it's still a solid axle monster truck, so those, that's the big complaint about solid axles, is that they break. This thing, I don't think it's heavy enough or fast enough stock that it would do a lot of damage to the axles. We drove it really hard and they seemed fine. That wasn't a worry for me. However, they handle different, and they're not really like, this can do bashing, and I would say if you're bashing this, maybe turn it down versus go full 100, because it still is solid axle. If you hit something one wheel straight on, it's going to want to pull at that whole axle versus something like an A-arm, which will have a little bit of give. So there's that. Application-wise, I would say if you have a dirt area or a backyard, it's got to be on probably low grass. This isn't a big truck, so people have to keep that in mind too. It's not a big truck, so low grass, hard packed dirt, semi-loose dirt would be okay. I would set up little jumps. You could probably make cardboard ones if you were crafty, or really thin like plywood ones. And just set up like a little skate park, a little bash park with this, kind of like a Monster Jam arena. And I think this thing would be fun. Now, we're slated to get another one of these. When we have the second one of these, I can tell you we're going to be doing some Monster Jam style racing. We'll do that. We'll do some penda drags, and I'm really excited to see, what comes out for this. Trio recently just came out with a bunch of aluminum parts for it, and I can't wait to see those. And maybe we'll get our hands on some or some of the Losi parts and start upgrading it a little bit. We'll do some upgrade videos on that. But right now I just feel like it really doesn't need much. It's great out of the box. Definitely, I would actually say don't bother changing the motor. It's fast enough, and it is just fine with the motor that's in it. I did see 4-steer on this before, and that's pretty cool. It's pretty tight it's small for a 4-steer, but that would be pretty rad. Aside from that, yeah, this thing, I would say this thing's a big win. I would give it probably, this thing would be an 8.5, a 9 out of 10. And to get a 10, I don't know what you'd have to do in our stable, but to get a 10 would have to be very impressive. So stay tuned for more awesome run video. We've got a bunch of that stuff queued up. We'll do some, tight little glam shots with this. And until next time, amigos, keep that finger on the trigger and, do some backflips. Go try to break some stuff and then learn about your RCs. We're gonna do another video on you just got an RC, what you need to know, and kind of walk around a car and kind of talk about what it is on the car. So stay tuned for that. If you're new to RC, welcome, and I hope you have a pocketbook that's very flexible, because once you're in RC, you're in it, and it's going to be a blast. So until next time, amigos, we'll catch you then.